Welcome to the Vegas Insider channel here on YouTube. Kevin Rogers with you as we take a look at the 2022 NFL Draft from Las Vegas coming up on Thursday. And we are joined by Scott Smith. He covers the NFL Draft, among other things, for the Action Network. And Scott, it's good to see you. How many mock drafts have you gone through so far preparing for this draft?
I've got 3 out so far, with the final one's going to come Wednesday night, whenever a lot of the mock drafts get graded for the mock draft industry. But, right now there is the time when it's crunch time and a lot of changes start coming out.
So Jacksonville's got the number 1 pick. At first, it was Evan Neal from Alabama, the offensive lineman, and then Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan. Now Trayvon Walker out of Georgia looks to be the favorite to be that top pick. Who do you like for Jacksonville to take at number 1?
Look, in all 3 of my mock drafts, I've kind of held fast and gone with Aiden Hutchinson. Over the weekend, on Friday, the market was actually flipped to where Hutchinson was still the favorite. But now here we sit on Monday, and you're looking at Trayvon Walker as the favorite. I'm about 50-50, but I'm actually leaning with Walker because of the momentum he's been gaining.
So if Walker does not go number 1 to the Jags, you think he goes number 2 to Detroit?
I do still think he goes to Detroit. I think he's going to offer a little bit of versatility that they're looking. You've heard some of the rumors, basically, that Kayvon Thibodeaux might not be a fit from a coaching standpoint with what they want to, how they want to build the team as far as like character and things like that. So I still think that if Trayvon Walker doesn't go 1, he will be 2 there to Detroit.
And then you look at number 3 and the Texans, all the issues they had with Deshaun Watson. He's now in Cleveland. You think Davis Mills is maybe the answer. Are they going to go offensive line there with Evan Neal at number 3?
So this is where I think the draft has really started to take a turn and get interesting. I think one of the names that you really have to go ahead and look at is for Sauce Gardner. He's been gaining a lot of momentum, be able to play that zone concept in the secondary that Lovie Smith wanted to play. Houston has been absolutely atrocious the last few years as far as the secondary goes. And Sauce Gardner's sitting at plus 350 right now, to go to the Texans there at that 3rd pick. And I'm starting to think that he's going to be the pick there.
You mentioned a minute ago, Scott, about Kayvon Thibodeaux from Oregon, where he would land. And again, maybe a top 5 pick. Do you think he still ends up going in the top 5?
Yeah, rumor is that his interview with the Jets and the meeting that he had with the Jets went very, very well. I think you go ahead and look at Robert Saleh and how he's built defenses in the past, specifically in San Francisco, and I think he's a name that's going to fit right there. And look, we're talking about a guy that going into this last college football season was projected widely to be the number 1 overall pick. The concerns that they're having is just he's one of these new age players, very similar to Juju Smith-Schuster, and they're questioning his dedication to football because he has other interests off the field. I think that's just going to be today's modern player with NFTs and all the different things that they have to do with NIL deals and things like that. I think you're just going to see more players, come out in the mold of what Kayvon Thibodeaux has from a character standpoint. But I think he would be a great fit there for the Jets. And that's actually who I'm leaning for pick 4.
A lot of people, Scott, normally we talk about quarterbacks at the top of the draft. This year, it's not the case. And you have Malik Willis out of Liberty, also Pitt's Kenny Pickett as 2 guys that will go in the first round. You just don't know where they're going to go. But do you really like that Malik Willis top quarterback selected? Or do you think Kenny Pickett could be a surprise, maybe jump Willis?
I think a lot of people have been looking at Carolina for the top quarterback to go off there at 6. I don't agree with that take. They've had Kenny Pickett kind of connected to Carolina because of Matt Rule recruiting him there when he was at Temple. I actually think that the move's going to be for Pittsburgh to move up and draft Malik Willis. Pittsburgh has kind of shown their hand the last few drafts to where you've been pretty confident to be able to go ahead and predict their moves and who they were going to take and select in the first round. And I still think it's going to be Malik Willis, but I'm actually looking at Pittsburgh to move up to go ahead and get him. And look, that's a number that you're looking at this morning, Malik Willis to Pittsburgh at plus 350. So I think there's good value there to go ahead and make that bet.
As far as receivers go, Scott, you have Garrett Wilson of Ohio State, also Chris Olave out of Ohio State. There's a lot of big names there. How many receivers do you think will go in that first round?
The number initially came off at over and under 5.5, which I thought was great, and I hammered that number. But the market's actually starting to correct and kind of fine tune itself here the closer we get to the draft. Right now, it's sitting at 6.5. A lot of mock drafts actually have them projected at 7. I think you have those guys on the back end of the first round: George Pickens, Dotson out of Penn State. Christian Watson's another name that you're hearing. I actually like the under. I think 6 is going to be the number that you go ahead and get there. There's some talk recently here that Green Bay, if they don't get a player that they want, may look to move out of the first round. So that's going to take away some of those possible landing spots for wide receivers there. Detroit's another team that you can look at. Kansas City has 2 picks right there at pick 29 and 30. I would actually look for them to move up and get a receiver of their choice that they'd be more interested in rather than stay. Brett Veach has got a long history of moving up and trading in the first round of drafts. So I think that number is going to sit at 6, and I think the market has corrected itself right there to the correct spot at 6.5.
Scott, with running backs, we've seen them not go in the first round. It's more of a second round flavor the last few years. Breece Hall out of Iowa State, he's the favorite right now. Do you think you're going to get maybe one running back? That total right now is at 0.5 to see how many running backs will go in the top 32. Do you think one sneaks in there?
I just don't think so. I think the one spot that you can kind of go ahead and look would be maybe Buffalo. And look, when you're doing at the end of this draft right here, you want to kind of have outs, very similar to poker if you're trying to get a straight or something like that. And you want to try to have as many outs as you can. And really the only landing spot I see right there late is going to be Buffalo. And then you also look at some of the scouts that I really pay attention to. And it's not unanimous that Breece Hall is the top running back. Kenneth Walker has been getting a lot of buzz here late leading up to the draft. So I don't even think that it's really unanimous that Breece Hall would be that guy.
And finally, is there one or two props that you really like going into Thursday's draft?
Yeah, look, I think when you start looking at it, I think Charles Cross is a guy who's been getting a lot of buzz, and the numbers across multiple, sports books that have been great for Charles Cross. You start looking at him and he's plus 500 to be the first offensive player selected. I think there's a very reasonable chance that you could see Trayvon Walker go 1, Hutchinson go 2, with Sauce Gardner at 3 and Kayvon Thibodeaux at 4. And then, Peter Schrager has got multiple sources have been reporting that the Giants absolutely love Charles Cross. He projects as more of a left tackle, whereas Ekwonu and Neal, there's some questionable, about whether or not they're going to be true left tackles. Some of them might kick in the guard. Some of them might be, a little bit more pigeonholed to a right tackle position. So he's a guy that I actually like a lot of the numbers on there, at plus 500. And even if you just want to bet him to the Giants, he's plus 450. So I think there's some value to be had there. And I think you start looking at the end of the draft with some of the props. You start looking at how the financial landscape of the NFL has really changed with the contracts that wide receivers and cornerbacks are getting. And I think you start looking at some of those guys. You've got like Kyler Gordon, out of Washington, Kaiir Elam out of Florida. Those cornerbacks, I think, are going to move in to the top 32 and get drafted in the bottom end of that first round. Those guys have some plus money. I think Gordon right now is plus 110. Elam's at plus 125. And then look, I think when we look at it, I think that over 2.5 number on the quarterbacks, I think you can get good money there and get some value there. I think you're going to see a quarterback hit. And a long shot that I've been betting, if you look at Tennessee, you got Ryan Tannehill getting a little bit older. He's 34, did not produce when it came to the playoffs, even though they got that first round bye and no number 1 overall seed. I think Tennessee is a prime spot at plus 500 that you may see one of those quarterbacks go.
Scott Smith, you could find him on Twitter at ScottSmithFF. He covers fantasy football along with mock drafts for the Action Network. Does a great job of doing this for years. Scott, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Appreciate you having me.
There's Scott Smith. I am Kevin Rogers. Thanks a lot for tuning in for the NFL Draft Look Ahead right here on our Vegas Insider YouTube channel.